All right. Welcome. We are on chapter 6 uh, with files and exceptions. We're going to actually start with exceptions today, and then we'll get into files as we kind of progress through some of the stuff that is in the chapter. We're going to be using a loop to process a file, and I'm actually going to demo that. We're not going to get too far into the PowerPoint. I'll be kind of showing you a little bit about working with text files, because that's mostly what you're going to be doing as when you are analyzing log files and stuff like that for security purposes. And a lot of things that you do is about working with files. Binary files are a little bit different from text files. We're not going to be talking about binary files. I'm going to be focusing on text files. That's where the skills are needed. Mostly binary files is more of a higher level computer science technique. That you can get for, like, if you were, this makes more sense for languages such as C and C++. You've already been doing binary files. That's what Pickle does. It does it for you. So we don't have to delve into the nightmare of binary files, which is nice. And one thing that we need to cover is exceptions, because this is actually on your final. And so it's actually 20 points on your final. And yeah, out of 100. So this one's important that you guys get for when you take your performance-based file. So I'm going to go ahead and demo using an exception. And, we'll talk about it first. But what an exception is it's the ability for a program to essentially change the mechanical flow of your process by what we call throwing an error. So it's when you are using code that somebody else wrote, like when you're converting a number to an integer from the ASCII input of the user. Sometimes what if the user, instead of putting in a number that you're expecting, they put in characters? And so the input function has the ability to throw an exception. And when an exception is thrown, it's up to you to catch it. And so what it does is it actually takes you and throws your runtime out to the catching the exception. And that way you can stop the runtime before a drastic error happens, and essentially correct the operating flow of your program so that it doesn't crash totally. So we do that with what's called an exception handler. And you can learn about throwing your own exceptions, but this is not really where we need to be until maybe you get a little bit more into writing libraries and basically writing code for other programmers. That's when you get more into like object-oriented programming and whatnot. But the form of an exception is that you try to have some statements. So you start it with a try, and then you have some statements. And if those statements throw an exception, then it's caught down here, and you can catch that error and then continue on with your process, or retry getting the user input. So let's go ahead and demo that exception handling, and then we'll get into files and whatnot. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do a simple input here. And this is something that you could actually, you could use the while for doing this, but we're not going to. I want to show you kind of, the idea of exception handling. And the code that we're going to use is this integer input. And that is what's going to actually throw the exception. So we're going to assign a value I to some integer input. Now, this takes the input that we're expecting, which is going to be a number, and assigns it to the value I. However, if we were to type in some characters here instead of a number in ASCII code, like ABC, well, ABC isn't something that is readily able to convert to an integer. So then an error would happen. So what we want to do is we want to actually, well, first I'm going to build a main function because, you know, hey, that's the way we should be doing things. So let's do this. And there, and then we'll call the main function. There. Okay, good. So what I want is inside this function, I want to try a specific region of code. Now you need to tab this in so that's part of the try block. So it's in the scope of the try block. Then you're going to run the catch. And the catch is going to be some kind of error, or E. We usually refer to it as E or exception. We may need to get into some of the code, but I think I'm missing a few things like that. And maybe that. But let's go look at some of the PowerPoint and get a little bit, because, you know, I'm always writing in, you know, 7 different languages, so I always forget the exact way to get this in here. So, all right, it looks like, all right, I think I need to modify it a little bit. Oh, well, hey, let's go check it up on Google. Let's do Python try catch. Try accept. Okay. Oh, okay. You should be able to do. This looks like it's. Yeah, here it is. Accept name error. So this is actually where we can get specific exceptions. We're gonna go with just the regular exception. It doesn't look like we can. Yeah, we can dictate what kind of exception was raised, but we're going to go with the default. Anything that happens, we're going to, and you notice here, you use exceptions to open files. And that is, if there was a problem with the file, it's going to tell you there's a problem opening the file. It could be something as simple as not enough disk space, you know. But the open code wrote the ability to throw an exception when there's a problem, and then you can catch it down here and tell the user something's wrong. And then, of course, you can do a loop and loop back through it if you need it. So we're going to go ahead and modify this so that it actually behaves appropriately. Let's see here. Catch. Yeah, there. That's C code. I think we should be able to do this. I think we should be able to get the actual thing, but that's fine. You know, whatever. All right, so here is where we would just tell the user something's wrong. In this case, I know that most of the errors will happen when somebody doesn't enter a number. So if they don't enter a number, like they enter ABC, I want to show them, hey, you didn't enter in a numerical value. So, duh. And we can look at kind of how this code works. So let's go ahead and start by testing it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. This is the code region where everything would be fine. and you would continue on. So what ends up happening is that if the error is thrown here, it takes your runtime and it skips over this line of code, and it goes, your runtime will immediately go down to this print, and line 9 will not be run because an error was thrown and we're within a try block. And so when that error is thrown, it catches it. So you can think of it as like the error is a baseball, and the baseball is your runtime, and it's going down normal until it hits an error, and then your runtime gets thrown over to here. So let's demo that real quick. And then we're going to use exceptions for opening up a file. That's just common good practice, and we'll kind of modify it, and then we'll get into files and processing files. So let's do this test, and you know what, let's do it in the debugger. And I'm going to say run, start debugging. There we go. Okay, now it's going to run. I'm going to go ahead and run this line of code. Okay, it says down here, enter a number. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to enter a number. 34. Okay, that's fine. It worked because I entered an actual number. It didn't mess. I didn't mess it up on purpose. And so it's fine. Notice that this code did not run. So that was a test in showing you kind of how it works when you enter in properly. But let's look at what happens when I enter ABC. Okay, let's step over. Okay, now we'll go down here. I'm going to enter an ABC. Now the value that when it does the conversion, the integer conversion, it's going to throw an error because it's expecting an integer. You want to take the input and convert it to an integer. It's expecting an integer. You send it ABC, it's going to puke. So it's going to throw, it's going to, yeah, okay, never mind. It's going to throw the error out, and it's going to get caught by the exception. So I'm going to hit enter now, and you're going to see something happen with your runtime. It's going to skip over line 8, and it's going to go right down to line 10. Okay, so it goes, it goes to the exception first, then line 10. So notice that line 8 did not run. So if this was code that would crash your plane, if something was wrong, it would not run because you detected an error for line 8. Okay, so then we tell the user, hey, you didn't enter a number, you entered ABC, or whatever. And that's exception handling. Okay, so now what we're going to do is let's talk about files now. And files, what we're going to be mostly working with is text files. So you know what? This PowerPoint is not going to do us much good right now today. I got a little whiteboard here for some chicken scratches for you. Okay, so when you think of a file, just think of it kind of like, you got your little box that represents kind of your file. This is just, it's not really a nice little box, but you put in text, then you hit the enter key. Well, a \r\n goes in there. That's a new line, that's a carriage return and a new line. The \r is only for DOS systems. So you put in text, you hit an enter key, and a new line character goes in. You cannot see the new line character in Notepad. It doesn't show it other than a new line comes down. So really on disk, the way it is it's text \n, text \n, text \n. You put text in, hit the enter key, new line, hit the text in. So it's what the Notepad is what renders those new line characters in, even though on disk it's just one stream of data. That's all it is. So the new line, the \n, is a formatter for our text files, and we use it, and it's something that you need to be aware of. Another one what you would see is like the \t. The \t. Well, this has really turned into some chicken scratches. Okay, a backslash T, what it does is it just, you got text, you do a backslash T, and it's going to put a 5 spaces in between it. And you can't see the backslash T because, well, you can. You would just see the 5 spaces in the editor. So these are kind of like behind the scenes characters that are actually in your text file that you're not able to view. Well, you are able to view because you get new lines and you get tabs. But it doesn't, in the actual disk at the level that we're working with in programming, there's a backslash N and a backslash T there. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a program that takes some information from the user and writes it to that disk. And then we're going to build another program that reads it and prints it. And that's where we're going to kind of go for today, just to give you that experience of working with text files. And then also we're going to use this opportunity to talk about properly working with your text file. You do not want to put your text file in C drive, some muckety-muck folder, blah, blah, blah. No, you want to put your text file with your Pi file. That way you don't have to tell it where it is on your C drive. You can just implicitly open it because they're in the same directory. So we'll be working with that. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to come up with a folder here. It looks like this is going to be chapter 6, and we're in the chapter, looks like chapter 2 directory. So I'm going to put my text file in here with the chapter 6.py. We'll be doing that shortly. Okay, so whenever you write a record, you're going to use the try catch, and in fact we have the example of opening up a text file over here. So we see here that this is the proper exception example for opening up a file. So it'll try, and if it's able to open the file, then it will write to the file, except for when something's wrong, and when you're done, you will close the file. I don't like all this. We're going to pare this down. So let's go ahead and come in here and see what we can do. You know what? Let's just type it in. Yeah. Okay, so we got the try. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do an open. So you can call it anything you want. This name, it can be my file, but that's what we call our file pointer. And we call it the file pointer is because it's what we use to access the file. It's the variable that represents your file. Now you see here that we're just saying open, but you notice here that when I say like demofile.txt, I don't have like C:\\/ all kinds of crap there. I don't. So that's not what we want. We want you to open up a file that will save in the directory of where your Pi file is located. And so I'm going to call this myfile.txt. Okay, now the exception, we'll just say error opening file. And then here is where we will actually do our output. We will do our output we're going to have the user enter some numbers until they hit -1. And that's what we're going to write to the file one by one. And then we're going to look at it and see how well things turned out. So instead of the print everything is fine, we are going to have this actually happen. We're going to say, let's see, we're going to say, hey user, while, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say while, you know what? while I does not equal -1. Then we're going to do we should do another try-catch block here, but I'm not going to, for your input. In fact, on your final exam, you're going to have to do that for your input. But while I does not equal to -1, we're going to say, hey, I is equal to some integer input. Enter your numbers. Enter. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this with just strings. Yeah, that would be cool. -1. No. Let me maximize this, and then we can kind of go from there. Enter your numbers. Let's do this. We'll do -1 to quit. Good. All right. Now, what we are going to do is a few little changes, but every time my while loop runs, I'm going to write I to a file, and then I want it to do a new line. So if I just do a write, it's going to write all the numbers all together. Well, how do we do a write in Python anyways? Yeah. I think it's the write statement. I'm pretty sure. Python text output. Let's see. Oh, text file output. Text file output. Oh, I just committed a sin. Yeah, it's the write statement. Here's the sin that I committed. We want to dictate that we're writing the file with a W clause. That means to write. And then we also need to close the file. That's the sin I committed. So whenever you open a file, you must close it. So it needs to be closed in scope of where you open it. So I want to close it down here, but I want to do it underneath the try block, not in the while loop, because that's what's in the while loop. I'm going to close the file here. So you use the file name and then just say close. Okay, so open the file, close the file. Do that automatically. Now, this one I need to say that, hey, we're writing information, and then entering numbers, -1 to quit. What am I going to do with each number? I want to output it to the disk. So I'm going to go to my file. Now notice I'm doing this tabbed into the while loop. I'm going to do my file dot write. And what am I writing? I'm going to write I. Okay. We got some issues. And I believe it's because the write statement, whenever you go from the user to your program, you go from ASCII to integer. Whenever you go out, you got to go back from integer and convert it to ASCII. So I've got to actually convert I to ASCII again. And I think it's just str in front of it, if I remember right. But, you know, I may have to just look it up. Okay, well, I guess maybe I did remember right. Okay. So, let's kind of look at this behaving. Okay, opening my file for output. While I does not equal to -1, I start I at 0. I get my first number. I put in a 3. Okay, it outputs the 3 to the file. I have not closed the file yet. Go ahead and get another number. Let's get a 6. Oh, I gotta. Did I really? Ah, crap! I gotta start it all over again. It's because I didn't know what I was messing with. Okay, so this will actually overwrite the file and create it again. Since I've already created the file, I didn't close the file, so it could be a problem. Sometimes if you don't close the file, it does cause a problem with the file. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, get the first number, 8. Okay, write 8 to the file. Get the next number, 9. Okay, I just hit enter there to get it going again. Write it to the file. Get the next number, 10. Write it to the file. Get the next number. I'm done. -1. Oh, I got to do step over to get it in. There we go. -1. Done. Oh, it wrote -1 to the file. That's fine. Wait, that's something that we can detect and play with. Okay, so then it closes the file. So let's go into the directory of my Pi file where chapter 6 actually exists and look at the file that we just created. Yeah, where was it? It was in chapter 2 something or another. Yeah, okay. Simple, stupid me. Okay, there we go. Okay, there's our chapter 6 Pi that we're working on, and you notice how the file is right there. It's right with it. That's why you never do things like this crap. C:\\\. No, 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 never. Because you don't know if your program is running on a computer that has a C drive. So you always want to open and save your files indirectly, implicitly. And if you tell it to go nowhere, it's going to go to the only place it knows exists. And that's where the Pi file exists that's doing the, task. Okay, so let's go look at the text file, and we will see that we got a little bit of kind of an issue here because we really want these to be on separate lines so that we can format them and whatnot. So what we need to do is we need to inject that \n in there, that carriage return. So let's go ahead and do that. And what we'll do is I'm going to, in addition to outputting I, the string value of I, I'm going to add, you can use write line too for this, but I just want to show you the \n, just so you know about it. But you can do the write line, and it'll do the line for you. But I can concatenate the \n there, and that's going to put the lines, the end line character, kind of like I showed you in this model. It's going to put that \n in there for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm not going to debug this one. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and error opening file. I just hit my own try block because I didn't put a number in. Oh, typical. Okay, so let's actually put a number in this time. Okay, a number, a 2, a 3, a 6, a 7, a 10, a 2, a -1. Okay. You probably want to get the -1 out of the file. So we could do something like this. If I does not equal -1. And if it doesn't, then go ahead and write it to the file. Oh, I did that wrong. And I don't think I need parentheses for the if statement. Okay, so if it does not equal -1, then go ahead and write to it. So let's go ahead and look at the file from that last run. There we go. It's nice in one row. That's kind of cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into here and let's test it one more time without the -1 and make sure that it's working. Okay, let's do blah, 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 blah. Okay, -1. Boom, done. Let's look at our file. Does it have the -1 in it? No, it doesn't. It's beautiful. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to load this data in and do something with that information. So we're going to want a routine that opens a file. So this is a program that saves the file. Now, what if we want a program that opens the file and does something with it? Now, what we can do is let's just chuck this off into a function, def save file. I hate the stupid insert stuff. This thing is, there's some things I just really dislike about Visual Studio Code, and it does not do Control V and Control C very well. It just sucks with that. You got to use the stupid mouse or something. It's driving me insane already. There we go. Okay. This has to be done in once. Okay, we're good. Save file. Probably because I'm not calling it. Okay, that's fine. We'll see if that's going to be an issue. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do an open file. Okay, now what that's going to do is it's going to do a lot of likely the same things as this. So I'm going to just copy this code and put it in the open file code. Okay, so often what you'll have is when you open a file and save a file, you're going to have some of the same steps for opening a file that you have for saving a file. So what we want to do is we want to read one value at a time from the file in as an integer, and then let's do something like totaling them up. So we can, yeah, we'll just do a total of them, something like that. So first thing we do is when we're opening a file, we're opening it for reading. And we want to get from the file until end of file. So we want to put some code in here that reads the file into the end of file. So let's go look up that code. Python read file to end. Oh, you could do 4 lines in lines. Yeah. Yeah, but that's just kind of a stupid way of doing it. Okay, well, I wouldn't mind using the read function. Okay, let's do this. Python read until end of text file. Okay, so that's while not end of file. Okay, so while not UFO do begin reline. Okay, let's see. No, this is all a bunch of poo. There we go. I like this one. No. There we go. There we go. That will actually read a line until it gets to until it gets to a line that's not found, and then it breaks out of the loop. As soon as it reads a line that's not existent, it goes null. As soon as it reads a non-line, it'll break out of the loop. This one I kind of like. This one, you know what? This one might be better for line NF. Because we could do the read line over and over and over again. That may be probably a better way of doing it. But it looks like Python has this really cool for every line that's in the file, process that line. I'm going to go with this one. That one's kind of cool. It's simple, easy. This is kind of old school up here. That's how I would, excuse me, that's how I would do it in like another language like C or C++. Okay. If not, let's check that code out. So we're going to go ahead and do copying that code in for line in F. Well, it's my file that we're using, not F. So for line in my file, for every line in my file, take the line, and we know it's numbers, so we need to convert that number. For line in my file, we need to convert that number. It's coming in as the value line. So we will convert it to an integer. So we're going to need to convert it to I. So we're going to say I equals the string or the integer value of line. And one thing I do is, hey, get your memory, print your memory. So let's just print line before we even start processing. Let's just try to print the lines. That's all I want to do. So in main, since we have all this in functions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call from main the open file code. Okay, and I've got some errors for something. Might have to figure out what's going on there. Let's go ahead and maximize and run without debugging. Okay, it worked. Okay, so I thought there was a problem, but I guess green is not bad. So when I opened the file and I called that open file code, it opened the file and printed out the values. You see right there. So let's just do that in debugger so you can see see a little bit more of what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I'm going to use the start debugging, and it's going to be interesting because right here I'm not going to do a step over. I want to go into this function and see what's going on. So I'm going to do what's called the step into this time. So that's this guy right here, step into, and it's going to step into the function. Now I'm going to do step over. Did we find the file for reading? Yes. So for every line in the file, print the line. There's our first one. It's 2. Well, whatever. Yeah, there's the 2. Okay, there's the 2. Okay, then it goes and it just keeps going and it gets all of them, and then it closes the file. Don't forget to close the file, guys. Don't forget to close the file. All right, just making sure. When you open it, write the code to open it, immediately write the code to close it. All right, so now what we want to do is let's do something like getting that information and counting it up. So that comes in as ASCII in the text file. So we got to convert it to an integer. And then we can say, hey, I is equal to the current value of I plus the value that we're reading from the file. Okay, so let's look at that. Okay, so let's look at what's going on there. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this breakpoint. Okay, and then I'm going to continue. Okay, and then it gets us here. So I comes up as 2 for the first one. Then we go through it again. Then I is going to be added up to the next line. The next value is 3, so it should be 5. So I becomes 5. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue and just run. I'm going to remove the breakpoint, hit continue, and just finish out the program. So it looks like I'm ready to print I. And we're just going to do something like your total is, and I hate these stupid pop-ups. Your total is, and then what we'll have here is I. We'll just throw it in that way. That'll work. Yeah, that should work. Okay, run without debugging. Your total is 30. Okay, guys, so that's kind of your entry into saving and loading files as text. There's so much more, but that's kind of the basics. So remember, your file pointer always starts at the beginning of the file. Every time you do a read or a write, your file pointer moves ahead in the file. It's kind of like when you're writing in a book and your pencil is the file pointer, or when you're reading a book and your eyeballs is the file pointer. It literally is, you can think of it that way. All right, thank you. Well, if I can get things shut down. Good.